So this is our 1967 Beech Debonair. We bought this airplane as is, and I started out just overhauling the landing gear, painting the wheel wells. Then we ran into some radio issues, so we started upgrading the radios. Then we fell into glass panels and a whole avionics overhaul for the airplane. While I was in that process, I couldn't bear sitting on the seats and the old carpet anymore, so we had to upgrade that too. We're halfway through remodeling the house, and really the only thing left is this winter, putting on a new paint scheme. The inside of the airplane's got a whole new look, and I'm really excited to share with you what the process was. All right, so our Debonair project is underway, and originally we were gonna get right into putting our panel and stuff in, but we had a little malfunction issue with landing gear holding a charge. So we ended up having to overhaul all of this, and boy, does it sure look a lot nicer. And as a result, getting into here, this looked horrible, and now we were able to clean everything, get it all painted. You know, really, no one's ever gonna see this except for me doing the annuals, and I guess the worms, but it makes me feel better. It definitely brings a lot to the airplane, and it'll be a lot easier to clean after we land in grass strips and things like that. So I am excited about it. It's one of those things that people don't really see, but is really gonna add to the airplane. So as soon as we get the landing gear project finished, along with all of our normal operations here at Northwind, we'll be able to get this bad boy back on the ground, and then we'll be able to dive into the avionics. We have received our template for the new panel outlay. So Six Pack Aero has sent us a template that we'll be throwing on the panel. That'll give us an opportunity to move stuff around, see how things fit, and make any adjustments before they actually build the panel. So excited to get that on. We'll be sharing that with you shortly. And the project continues. Nothing goes fast. So this project started out, we were just doing a simple repair, realizing that we had old radios and an old instrument panel. I wanted to just simply make the radios work again. So here's a look at our Beech Bonanza Debonair panel. Very usable. You know, some older Navcom radios. We have no ADS-B in or out. So we'll be replacing that whole stack, and really excited to see what Six Pack Aero has for us for our new panel design. Starting with the radios, we paired up with an Avidyne IFD 550. That was gonna work great for all of our nav opportunities, better communications, better awareness. But as I got into it, I started looking around, and I'd already wired up our radio stack and kind of shifted gears. And we went with also a Dynon Skyview system. And we went with 2 screens, so we had a redundancy. All right, so made a little notch in my template here so I could get it set over, kind of check things out a little bit more in depth. I think the screens are laid out really well. Now the new panel is gonna be made out of a heavier gauge metal than the stock panel. And what we got to explore a little bit is taking a look at how we're going to mount this panel. And I think what makes the most sense is we'll cut out some of the skeleton, leave some of the exterior frame, and because this is also riveted into the airframe, it'll give us a steady spot to bolt to and mount this heavier panel. Everything's gonna tie in structurally and fit the requirements and the guidance as well to make this all airworthy. So general fit looks pretty good. We're close. We're gonna have to move this strut. And let's take a look here on this side. As for a glove box, that is also all looking pretty good. Looks like we got to do a little bit of adjustment here to make this panel curve. So we'll make some notes on that and get another test fit coming. Now it's time for the engine monitoring system. One of the things that we have is we have our exhaust gas temperature and our cylinder head temperature. And that harness basically works on some sensors that work on resistance. The hotter they get, it changes the resistance. So we already had an existing wire harness. We were running an EDM 700, and to save us a little time, we're gonna use this existing harness. Sensors are the same. However, our new harness is male connectors, and our old harness is female connectors. So I'm gonna unpin these sub Ds. These are really common in avionics. They do take some special tools. So each one of these pins is locked into this by a collar on the side, and we use a special crimping tool to put these pins on. So this isn't something you can just kind of fake it till you make it with some pliers. It won't function properly. But we have the right tools. We have our extraction tool, and we'll be able to individually pull these out. I'll be able to cut the end and crimp on some new male terminals to be able to put into this sub D, and then everything will hook up. Big progress today. I'm super excited. We've been toiling away. We've had 3 guys on it all day, and we've got our mock-up on our panel all set up here. So one of the cool things I was talking about earlier with these Dynon displays is these mounting trays. And you can see here on the back, our stack of all of our systems. This is our network hub. Everything integrates so nicely. This is one of our main harnesses that's getting all of our information from our other systems, our transponder, our ELT, our GPS, etc. Backup battery sources. We've got ADS-B in. Our whole system here is really coming together quick. So this is essentially the layout for the panel. We've got a few more airframe things to build out, but really I think we're a few more days of heavy install, and things should start coming together. As far as the inside of the airplane, I have been busy making a mess. So we've had to pull out the upholstery. We've pulled out, I don't know, pounds of old wiring. We're gonna be putting our magnometer for our Dynon system in the tail there. We've got some antenna wires that we gotta run. We're gonna have to pull out the overhead, get our GPS antennas and our new comm antennas mounted properly on the airframe. That'll be this next week. And the final fitments on our panel. So you can see we've traced out some areas from the old panel that we'll be removing. We've got to work on some structural bracing, and we've also added a few extras, USB information ports. I'm gonna leave the existing gear lights. Even though that the Dynon panel shows me my gear status, I really like having the lights on there. Other Bonanza flyers will be used to looking for it there. We're gonna trim out my glove box right here, and then we'll have another co-pilot USB-C power port. A few more little changes here as we get closer and closer. It's really gonna clean things up. I'm looking forward to seeing it as we put the final panel together. Well, one other little tiny time suck. As I was getting ready to deal with the panel, obviously we got into the landing gear and also sitting in the seats. Well, that is just not gonna cut it. We're gonna have a beautiful airplane with a beautiful full panel, and I can't bear to be sitting on that. So we're gonna be taking this over to our buddy Jacob. He's gonna try to find a material match as best he can. We'll put new inserts in there. That'll make the seats a lot more comfortable and certainly give them a few more years of life. So one more sidebar. As soon as you just, every time I feel like I get into this thing, there's some other little thing that I just can't defer. I am compelled to make it right. So we'll either run out of time or money or both, but I feel like we're doing the right things, and this really is gonna be an amazing plane when we get it all done.
There are a few things that I didn't know when I started this project, and that is really how the legacy systems are gonna tie in with this new electronic system. So a few key features: knowing when my gear's up and down for that indicator, flap indicators, and fuel. The engine monitoring system is pretty straightforward, and all those sensors came new in the kit, so that was a really easy one to get figured out. Starting with our flaps, that is actually working on a rheostat, and when we first put it together, we couldn't get the Dynon to realize what was going on and we were trying to push power through the rheostat. And so we had to reconfigure that a little bit and check the wiring. Again, Dynon was super fantastic about helping us troubleshoot this, and the signal ended up working out great. Working on fuel, the fuel calibration with our old floats worked out fine before we started this project. However, now that we have very sensitive equipment that can detect tenths of a gallon, the old floats were not going to work. We have 4 floats in that system, and they're also on a rheostat type of system, and they're probably 40 years old, and so it's not real clean. So I would gain fuel, and then I would lose fuel as I was filling it up. So that calibration wasn't working out too well. So what I did end up doing was getting new fuel sending units from SAIS out of Oregon. It was a very easy swap. However, we did have to run one additional wire. After fishing that wire through, going back through the calibration system, everything has been working out flawlessly. The Dynon system also provides all of my major systems indicators. One of the important ones for me was gear. I did opt in the audio panel to retain the original gear up and down lights. That was just part of my normal pilot flow, and so I opted to keep those in their original location, but also wired it into the Dynon so that the Dynon screen does show me 3 green when I'm ready to land. Some other things in this process that I needed to take into account was the actual panel. So the panel itself is structural, and I needed a resource to have a new panel cut to make these avionics fit and look great. Six-Pack Aero is local in Washington, and they were able to take the avionics that I sent in my layout, give me a template, and then cut us out and powder coat a really nice panel that made this installation super easy. All the Dynon gear simply screwed to the face of that, and we were able to use the mounting racks provided. Made all the airframe installations really quick and easy.
All right, we got the panel test fit in and the trays are in. One of the other features that I got to take care of is getting the magnometer, which gives us all our bearing and heading stuff for the Dynon. And I'm going to put it back here in the tail behind the rear bulkhead, just fashioning up a plate for it to go. And I'm going to use these wood stringers here that hold up the subfloor and set it on this panel. It keeps it away from a lot of heavy ferrous items, and it should allow me to adjust that plate so it's perfectly level and true and square with the chord of the airplane as well. So it's really important for this to match the sensors in the dash, and so I'm just using a programmable level so that I can set a base up there and then transfer it back to here. All right, we've been working really diligently on our Dynon install. Right now we've got the panel basically roughed in, the screens are powered up, and we're just doing an initial ops check to make sure everything's functional. We got all the sensors are working. We've pushed it outside. We're gonna do a quick run up, double check that everything's responding with the RPM, the map, and just do a general welfare check. Soon we'll be getting the radio stack ready to put in. Our antennas are installed, and we'll be doing the smoke checks. Let's see what we get here. That might not be the right key. There we go. All right, clear. All right, oil pressure starting to come up. There we go. Looks like things are reading. Looks like we got one cylinder that's giving us some bad numbers. We'll have to look into that. Gear showing down.
One of the other really key features of pairing these two products together, Avidyne and Dynon, is that they both have the same logic of being open source, so they talk really well to each other. They're both also touchscreen and knob interface. This makes it really nice for the pilot. When I'm flying in turbulence, I can balance and use the knob and push buttons, or I can trace and zoom in and out with my fingers on the touchscreen, just like an iPad. The Dynon system also allows me to be a lot more aware of my situations. Not only do I have traffic in and out, but all of my approach plates and navigation from my IFD are transferring directly to that Dynon system. Dynon also offers navigation aids in their system, but I'm choosing to use the IFD as a primary navigation source. There's a couple really cool aspects about the Dynon HDX system. One, from an install standpoint, it is very, very simple. They've really tailored everything down so that we're not pinning a bunch of wires, and instead they're providing network capability, which is really the future of aircraft avionics. So our wiring is minimized and the time to install is minimized. It also all fits in a really nice package that makes the installation on the hardware and the airframe side a lot easier too.
All right, everybody, it's been a little bit, but we are making progress. As you can see, we now have the interior beautifully back into the aircraft. Very excited about that. And probably the other very exciting part is we are up and running. So now the next steps are we got to get some configurations done. We have limitations. We have all the previous airframe information. We got to calibrate fuel tanks. We got a load of work ahead of us, but now's the fun part, really, is that we get to set up the aircraft the way we want to fly it.
So one of the big advantages of upgrading the avionics for a private or even a commercial pilot with some of these legacy aircraft is just a situational awareness. And probably the number one is dealing with approaches and traffic. In this system, because our original stack was, again, just to fix the radios, I have that Lynx transponder that has traffic in and out. That's providing traffic to my IFD. However, since we also put the Dynon system in, I had to do a traffic ADSB for the Dynon. They talk to themselves, and they're two independent systems, which also gives me some redundancy. It's really great to have traffic in and out, especially when you're in Charlie and Bravo airspace. It just makes situational awareness so much easier. Some of the other cool features with the big screen, I can move around what I see on the screen so that I have a primary flight display, engine monitoring, maps. I've got a whole list of different ways that I can play with that. And I have been switching it around a little bit, trying to figure out what's going to be my favorite layout. One of the really cool things about my Avidyne IFD is that the amount of information that's available to me at just a fingertip. I can see locations, I get charts, I can do nav approaches, see upcoming frequencies. This makes the whole approach process a lot easier, especially when you're in the soup. If you're thinking about Dynon, I can't recommend them enough. Their help desk is fantastic. They're really engaged and they had all the right solutions for me. I even got to talk to one of the engineers that designed the system to help me out with my flap indicator. Their systems are, I would call it a little bit modular, where I can add and select different features and they are really plug and play in the tray. The usability of that system is amazing, and the price points out there are very, very appealing as well. This project is a lot more affordable than you might think. Definitely if you have a legacy avionics system, right now is a great time to start looking into some new glass. The Avidyne product line is something that we're using more and more in our helicopters. This is the first install I've had in an airplane, and I'm really, really thrilled. They have great customer service, the install is relatively easy, and they're actually a direct drop replacement for the Garmin system. So it's a really nice way to upgrade, being able to have full color, moving map, touch, and knob control. I can't recommend them enough. I was able to do this project because I am a pilot and an AMP. Now, for those of you that are not an AMP but want to take a project on like this, there is actually a lot that you can do, but you are going to have to engage a dealer and an avionics installer. Now, this particular project was really fun from an owner standpoint, because being engaged with Dynon and Avidyne and learning about all the different options and configurations was a really fun process. And I handled all of the interactions with designing the panel and getting some of the final fit and finishes. One of the advantages of this system is from an installation. When you go to your installer, the amount of man hours to actually do the backbone is reduced by probably 60%. This whole project has for sure been a really meaningful one for me. When I originally bought this aircraft, it had legacy avionics that worked, but to be able to step into modern aviation right now, and again, the situational awareness and the navigation, the confidence it gives me as a pilot, and the amount of safety that it helps me and my passengers, I just wish I would have done it day one. If you have an older legacy system, for sure, take some time and look at all your options. I think that the Dynon and Avidyne combination is a real economic bargain, and the amount of features that you get, they're really irreplaceable. Things are becoming more and more affordable every day, so don't think just because you have an old airplane, you have to deal with old avionics.